Larry Krueger here with your 2022 draft profiles. Now, who am I doing draft profiles on? I'm only doing draft profiles on the guys that I really, really like, the guys that I really think are going to be steals in the NFL draft. And the guy I want to talk about today is Mr. Velus Jones. That's right, wide receiver from Tennessee. He's got a great story. He was born in Mobile, Alabama. Lived there until the family moved to Saraland, Alabama, when he was 8 years old, and he went to Saraland High School, and he was a first-team All-State player as a junior. He caught 51 passes for over 1,100 yards and 9 touchdowns. He was rated as a 4-star recruit coming out of high school, and he committed originally to play football at USC. But then he later decommitted and then briefly committed to play at Oklahoma before recommitting to play at SC. Now, what was the factor? What was the key factor for Velus? It was T. Martin, the former Tennessee quarterback who was coaching at USC. He was instrumental in Velus coming to SC, and he began his college career, Velus did, at USC. He redshirted his true freshman year, so he didn't play. During his redshirt junior year, that was kind of his bust-out year. He was named second-team All-Pac-12, and then decided to transfer to the Tennessee Volunteers. In fact, he got his degree at SC and then went to Tennessee as a graduate transfer. In his first season with the Vols, he led the SEC with 398 kickoff return yards. He's a tremendous kickoff returner. He finished the 2021 season with 62 receptions for 807 yards and 7 touchdowns, and was named the SEC Special Teams Player of the Year. So we're talking about a player who's about 6 feet, 200 pounds, speedy wide receiver with a versatile skill set. He's just an elite guy as far as speed. He can stop and start. He's got outstanding acceleration. He's dangerous in the open field, and he's got incredible balance. And in 2021, as I said, 62 receptions, 807 yards, 7 touchdowns. That was the best season of his career. This is a player who plays fast. He plays confident. He covers a lot of ground on the short part of the field. And he's slippery after the catch. I mean, if you like your run after the catch receiver, this is your guy. He's got rare suddenness with lightning footwork to create in tight areas. He's got elusive shiftiness and change of direction skills. And he's just a very impressive athlete, very quick accelerator. And I mean, we're talking about a guy who gets to top speed in like 3 steps, and he can stretch the field. He's got great body control. He's really smooth in and out of his breaks. He plays fast. He plays explosive. You don't see too many players entering the NFL after 6 collegiate seasons. It just doesn't happen. But he spent 2016 through 2019 at SC, and then 2020 and 2021 at Tennessee. He got his undergraduate degree from SC and then completed his master's at Tennessee. So, this is a guy. Tennessee played Jones primarily in the slot, and most of his targets came within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage. If you're looking for what's his ideal role in the NFL, he's a developmental slot receiver and a return guy who is really ideally fit to play in a West Coast spread offense. But where he really excels is run after the catch. That's where he brings his most intrigue to the table. His post-catch production has been notable, and it really translates as to why he's been such an outstanding return man. Very explosive in the open field. He makes full speed cuts, timely cuts, and he can create for himself. So this is a player that has outstanding contact balance. So you can, he takes a hit and he'll stay on his feet. It's spelled Velus, his first name, but it's pronounced Velus. And, it took until his 6th collegiate season for him to earn a consistent starting role. Just kind of tells you how unlikely this kid's path to stardom really is. It's really not common to have a 6-year senior with NFL appeal. And then you say, well, where is he going to go in this draft? He's going to be a day 3 guy. Why? Well, he's one of the older prospects in the draft, and a lot of scouts don't like that. He's going to be 25 years old by the time his NFL rookie season begins. He's one of the older prospects in this draft class. And he's also, because he was at 2 schools and it took him a while to break through, and he played behind some really good players, he doesn't have an incredible statistical resume, but he's a deadly kick returner. And you're talking about a guy who also has had over 3,000 kickoff return yards, and he's never had a single punt or kick muff. So he's trustworthy, very trustworthy. In fact, 162 career targets. He recorded just 9 drop passes. He's got some of the surest hands in this draft class. Spent most of his time, as I said before, playing out of the slot. I think 80% of his snaps in 2021 were out of the slot. That's where he projects best to in the NFL. And then he goes to Indy last week at the combine and ran a 4.440. Well, he ran a 4.440 coming out of high school. He ran a 4.32, I should say, in Indianapolis in the pre-draft process. And when you look at what this kid did at the Senior Bowl, he gets invited to Mobile. He clocked the second fastest time by an offensive player at the Senior Bowl. They clocked him at 21.75 miles per hour. And then he looked really good in the Senior Bowl practices. And then in the actual game, in the Senior Bowl itself, he was targeted 4 times. He caught all 4 of those passes for 53 yards, leading the American team in both categories. So he was lights out at the Senior Bowl practices. This is a player that really didn't show a whole lot at SC early in his career. And you say, well, why is that the case? Well, look who SC had. SC had Michael Pittman. They had Amon-Ra St. Brown. They had Drake London, Tyler Vaughns. All these guys were sitting in front of him. So, he just got caught in a numbers game at SC. And then where Tennessee has really utilized him, they've used him on screen passes and routes near the line of scrimmage. Of his 13 yards per reception, 8.3 of those yards came after the catch. So he's really dangerous after the catch. Now, what do I love about him? I love him, the versatility, kind of like a poor man's Deebo Samuel. He can play a little running back. He can play a wide receiver. He can be a returner. He's really feisty, really tough, really good playmaker. And, this is a guy who's really worked at it as well. I mean, at SC, he gets a bachelor's degree in sociology. Then he moves on to Tennessee, and he gets a master's degree in agriculture, leadership, education, and communications back in December. So he's a student. He's a smart kid. At Tennessee, he was a first-team All-SEC performer and the 2021 SEC Co-Special Teams Player of the Year. So you're talking about a kid who's succeeded in the classroom, has succeeded now at 2 programs, and is versatile. You can, it's nice to have versatility. You got a player that you can line up at running back. You can flex him out against linebackers. He's a mismatch with 4.3 speed. He's thick, so he can take hits, and he's got great contact balance. And you can use him as a return man. So Velus Jones, because he's 25, he's going to be there probably in the 4th round, maybe 5th round. Heck, he may even be there late into day 2 in the 6th round. I don't expect him to last too much past that point. But, man, if you're looking for a sleeper in the draft and you like what Deebo Samuel did for the Niners this year, you are going to love Mr. Velus Jones Jr.